Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm your host and GM, Mitch Broesder. You can find me over on Twitter at MagnesiumB. You can find the show over on Twitter at Standard Risky, or you can come find us in the show's Discord. Link to that in the show notes. And we are here tonight at the start of a fresh mission in the dog days of summer. With me tonight, I've got Pete Loftus.
That's right, folks. I'm Pete. I'm Ember's premier Dust Moss enjoyer. And if you know what this shit is, please let us know.
We got Malcolm Hall here as well.
Hey, what's up? Go ahead and check me out on Letterboxd. Horrid_Scrum. I made an account just to give a bad review to the movie Don't Worry, Darling.
Spoiler alert, that's not a good movie. And then we also have Timothy Manns with us.
Hey guys, I promise you I'll never make a Letterboxd watching movies. Sucks when you can just watch people on YouTube do underwater metal detecting. So just do that for yourself. No reviews for me except for that are good.
I like to watch videos of people reacting to the movies that they're watching, and through a sort of secondary inference, I gain all the content of the film.
I like the YouTube videos where it's like an AI voice that explains what's happening in like a sped up version of the movie. That way I don't have to waste my time.
Do those exist?
Yeah, there'll be like scenes from a whole movie, but they won't say the name of the movie. I'll show you later. You're going to want to check this out.
You put Subway Surfers next to that, and we're cooking, baby.
Yeah, my phone literally gets really hot.
In a smaller screen and a lower screen, best of Family Guy.
And yeah, we are back, folks. We are continuing our ongoing campaign of Beam Saber by Austin Ramsey. As always, you can find Beam Saber over at austinsitch.io page. A link to that in our show notes. Yeah, like I said, we're coming back. We are at the beginning of a new mission. Last we were here, the squad had reconvened after the destruction of the Ring Loyalist bar known as the Sixth Moon. It had been burnt down by the Grenfield operative Wager Felbar, and the squad had come together to plan a revenge mission for the loss of their favorite bar. And using intel from the Harlow Shellspade data cache, the squad was able to discover the location of a secret Grenfield base located underneath the urban renewal zone in the slum district of Coronatus known as Wormtown, another location for Grenfield's secretive Nexus Initiative program. Together, the squad came up with a plan to infiltrate the secret base, Installation Violet, while at the same time, above the base, on the surface, the CEO of Grenfield, the scion of the family, Meyer Grenfield, is intending to hold a public ceremony for a surprise announcement concerning the future of the urban renewal zone. And the Black Star Constellation intends to rig the Cradle device inside Installation Violet with explosives and detonate it, while members of COG above distribute information, implicating Grenfield in its numerous crimes related to the Nexus Initiative. That's kind of like my notes. You know, I think maybe this plan might evolve as we encounter resistance, as we play to find out what happens. But that was kind of the plan on paper last we touched base. And when we had left off, you all had come up with your plan. You had decided to approach Installation Violet through the abandoned tunnels of the Foreigner, sort of Coronatus Underground Railway, using a stealth approach. And you had your engagement roll, which will tell us kind of what position the squad is starting in as things kind of kick off. And you had all miraculously rolled a 6, which means that you are going to be entering this mission in a controlled position. And before we jump right in, there's just like 2 things I want to address really quickly. One of which is the thing that we never do when we're supposed to, and I only ever remember right as we're starting a mission, which is that we have to decide what loadout everyone is bringing into this mission.
I'm going heavy.
Heavy, all right.
I'll also be doing heavy.
Heavy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't want to look weird.
Yeah. The only thing I will say here as a reminder is that, heavy is going to give you the most amount of gear. When it comes to fictional positioning, though, it is something I will take into account when it comes to trying to be quiet, trying to sneak around, trying to move quickly. But the flip side of that is you'll be able to hold a lot of things.
I just really want to go heavy on this one.
Yeah, heavy. A bunch of lads carrying a lot of gear. I like that.
I'm going heavy so I can carry 3 bribes at 1 load each.
Just like a bandolier full of cash.
Yeah, like instead of
You're going to get the
clips.
most attention for that.
It's like 300 credits. It's like not that much money.
I was saying instead of like rifle magazines, you have like gold bullion bars, you know?
It's still very heavy, yeah.
Rolls of quarters, yeah.
Oh, rolls of quarters is sick. Who wouldn't love a bribe of quarters? Hey, big guy, here's $2.50.
You'll be thanking me next time you go to the laundromat.
All right, so you boys are all going heavy for this mission.
And kit it up.
Which maybe tells me something about how we think this is going to play out. Great. Any like last minute questions or... Oh, sorry, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. So you load out all heavy. You also chose... at the end of our last session, we had a level up for the squad's character sheet, the recon sheet, and you had chosen 2 squad upgrades. And I believe you chose to upgrade the quality of your pilot weapons and also your pilot supplies, which means that both your pilot weapons and your supplies, which includes things such as bribes, intel, placed explosives, or subterfuge supplies, those are all going to have a higher quality, which means that when we're thinking about how you're interacting with opponents of a higher tier, which Grenfield are, your actions will count as a tier of effect higher, which will kind of put you on an even playing field, actually, with Grenfield, which is a tier 2 squad. So you are, at least weapon and supplies-wise, kind of punching above your weight a little bit. And I think we had kind of talked about in the fiction, this is maybe represented... you guys just recovered that cache of, Concordat weapons that was being shipped into the city by the Night Flyer Syndicate. And I think there's probably some like repurposing of that gear and that weaponry, right, to, in the fiction, allow for this sudden upgrade of weapon quality. And so that's not anything we have to like pin down exactly at this moment, but as we get deeper in and we start using supplies and weapons, I'm interested to see what kind of Concordat flavor we want to put on that. But with that said, are there any questions or any last minute thoughts before we kind of start rolling into the mission proper?
No, let's do it.
Yeah, so like to get to how long is this transit like to these tunnels? Is it like actually like we're walking kind of like along an old busted subway, or is it the idea that we're kind of like digging a hole?
Let's start there, because that's actually where I was going to start anyway, so that works out. So like we said, the plan here, as we talked about last time, right, is to sneak through the abandoned tunnels that make up the former Coronatus underground in that area, kind of leading into the urban renewal zone, and use those to make your way underground towards Installation Violet, who you don't have, like, I think the exact schematics of Violet. You don't have the precise location, but you have a pretty rough idea of where it's at, and then you were able to like pinpoint that more directly, Rhodes, by using the Redshift last time and its fundamental scanners to kind of pick up the signature of this Cradle device. You know where this installation is in a broad sense. You don't have like a one-to-one route map to it. So there is going to be an element here of exploration. But, we're using these tunnels, like I said. We've seen the Black Star Constellation use these tunnel networks underneath Coronatus before to travel in and out of the city. It's like part of the same network broadly where Low Tower is located. I think it's like worth emphasizing or maybe like reiterating here that Coronatus is the oldest inhabited city on Imber, right? It's been occupied over the course of millennia by different groups and during different technological eras. And I think that a lot of, like a lot of real world cities, things have been built on top of older portions of the city, like time and time again. And so I think like most of Coronatus is crisscrossed underneath with like multiple levels. It is tunnels from like the former Underground Railway. It is old mining tunnels, sewers, maintenance tunnels, entire streets and avenues from old Coronatus that have just been sunken and built over the years. Military tunnels from like long demolished forts. natural cave systems or like, remnants of early mines before the mining kind of spread elsewhere. And so in this way, it's almost like, Coronatus is sitting on this honeycomb of tunnels, not all of which like actually lead anywhere. And so I think with that in mind, you do have the secret routes squad upgrade. That's like something you started this game with, which tells us you might have access to long forgotten underground subways, little known mountain paths, or some other route of your choosing. And so we've really used that to kind of like lean into this idea of you being able to move around the city underneath it regularly. And so I think that's what's happening here. I kind of want to open, I think it's like a montage, right? It is the Black Star Constellation and the fire team of COG members. Your new fire team of toughs, the kind of like militant members of COG, led by Jasper Somm, one of the COG members who you spoke with last time. So I think it's like probably there's like 4 of them and you 3, so it's like say 7 people altogether. And you are stalking through, I think, like dark tunnels with headlamps and like holographic maps, right?
Yeah.
Making your way through the abandoned pieces of the Coronatus underground. Coronatus is a very large city, from starting out at near Low Tower, which is in the works, and getting to Wormtown. I think just going over city streets, that might be like more than an hour-long walk, from point A to point B. So it's probably a couple of hours, like treading your way underground, hitting these cut-off like tunnelways. And your engagement roll was a 6 last time, which means that we're dealing with a controlled position at the start. To me, that also, I think, I don't know if this is in the Beam Saber book. I believe it is in Blades in the Dark when they talk about engagement rolls. And it's like something I think about here is like a 6 on an engagement roll means to me that like you kind of bypass whatever the first obstacle would have been. And in this case, I think that first obstacle would have been finding your way into the tunnel network that leads into where Violet is. But I think what we instead find here is as you get closer to the kind of broad area that is on the surface Wormtown, you start running into over and over again remnants of these underground tunnels that they've been filled in. Some of them it seems like natural cave-ins, but there are others where the debris looks more recent, right? Like intentional cave-ins have been caused maybe, or new debris has been brought in to close them off. But you kind of keep hitting dead-end tunnel after dead-end tunnel, right? And I imagine it's a lot of like picking your way in and out of these like kind of dead ends, trying to kind of what's the approach that's going to get you in. And I think, on a 6, a controlled position, utilizing like the knowledge that you have from your secret route squad upgrade, your previous experience in these tunnels, Jasper Somm also having been around this area, grown up here, I think you eventually find like a little maintenance shaft in one of these tunnels that kind of skirts off to the side. And this one has not been sealed. It is the 7 of you packed tight in the dark, single file moving through this like maintenance quarter that runs in between tunnels for a while until you finally reach like the doorway on another end. And there is like probably a concerted effort to push it open. It doesn't give it first, but then you can hear like the shifting of debris and the door is like half opened. It opens into another tunnel, another one of these underground tunnels. But you can tell from like the positioning on your own maps, you have crossed past this kind of like barrier. You are now in the underground tunnel network leading into Wormtown.
I love the idea, it basically just being on a whole kind of city in some sense. Underground here, where it's just kind of like built on top, and maybe this is like kind of what's opening up in front of us is like these tunnels, and then we're kind of through here and you can like see what was once maybe on the surface. I'm imagining it's like sort of cavernous. Like, is this a tight fit here, or are we like shimmying through, or is it like...
So I think what happens, you as you move forward, right, these single file kind of like forcing your way past this like door that's only able to halfway open, that like I think right, there's like a squeal of rust and age as this like metal hatch is kind of pushed open. I think that where you are emerging out into is still, at least in this place, maybe still a railway tunnel.
Okay.
I think you can see like a set of rails running down the center of this tunnel and off into the distance. And, maybe there's a kind of like a raised walking platform on either side, with like the tunnel itself kind of deeper where the rail is. But the first thing that you notice, I think before you even kind of notice the size of the tunnel, is that before you were operating in total darkness, right? Mm-hmm. You were in the disused tunnels surrounding Coronatus. As you step out into this old railway tunnel, it's very dim where you're at, but there is light in here. There is lighting mounted along the walls up like near the top, very dim, but like enough to like illuminate the area you're at. And there is the sight of more light further off in the distance down the tunnel.
And do these lights, do they appear to be as old as what would have been there when this was a train line? Or are these lights that have been, can we tell, like, is it dusty? Are they covered in cobwebs? Like,
they're new. You can tell the tunnel around you as you're stepping out from this extremely tight maintenance shaft and out into this railway tunnel, which has enough room to allow all of you to step out. This tunnel's cleaner than the ones you've been traveling through, as if it has been cleaned up, except for just behind you, right? Like as you step out, right, like to your right, there is a stacked wall of debris blocking off the tunnel. You can kind of see where it has like kind of intentionally like charges have probably been set off at some point to bring down that portion of the tunnel. And it's that debris that is mostly covering the entrance to the maintenance shaft that you came in through, that you've kind of had to force out of the way to get in. You did a bad job of sealing off this little maintenance entrance, and that's what's allowed you to sneak in. But it is, there is newly installed but dim lighting here. It is cleaner. The rails look in places like they've been repaired or replaced. There's like shining new metal next to like older rusted pieces. It obviously it stops where this debris cave-in has happened, but it has been replaced, as if they have been running some kind of rail-based machinery down here. And there is noise as well. I think it takes you a second for your ears to kind of like pick it up as you're adjusting to, the echoing kind of dies off from your kind of forced entrance into the tunnel. But you can hear very like mild. It is like the far off sound of like humming of machinery. And I think there's like the occasional like echoing clang that resounds from, it's hard to tell how far away it could be with, this tunnel network like this. But you have very abruptly stepped out of a place that has not been touched by people in decades, if not longer, into a place that is clearly had recent human activity. And like I said, we're in like a train tunnel. I do think that there is probably like preserved posters, like wheat pasted to these walls, old advertisements. I think maybe there's like something here, like a heritage mercantile, like almost like we're new, like happy to be here. This kind of like announcement of the arrival of the Commonwealth in Ember. There's like stuff here that is decades old. But yeah, so from where you are at, to your right, let's say, coming out, there is this cave-in, but then to your left, as the tunnel continues on down, you can see not that far off in the distance, it starts to branch off. There are some like old junctions and switches from the rail that used to run through here. But I think you can also see there are what look like new tunnels that have been bored into the into the earth, like clean cut, fresh, not finished in the same way that these old train tunnels are, but like I think there's a clear sign that they have been expanding the tunnel network down here. And it is out of one of these freshly bored tunnels that you first see this kind of swinging red light emerging. And a moment later, out of that tunnel emerges I think a small, like spherical, like matte gray drone. It's kind of like floating. You recognize it. It's the exact same kind of survey recon drone that they were using inside Installation Indigo. This one seems to be autonomous. It's not tethered to a person, but it is slowly and steadily floating along, and it emerges from this tunnel, this red light sweeping as it is sort of scanning for people like you who have snuck in, right? That is what it's doing. It is patrolling, and it is pretty far off in the distance. You're in a controlled position to start. I think it continues past you, and it goes down another one of these freshly bored tunnels, but you see that red light kind of sweeping where it's at, and then it moves on. And it tells you there is like active patrol and surveillance in this place, right? You're in the right place, or at least approaching the right place. And maybe this is like, I guess maybe this happens now. I think on your throat mic, like earpieces, right? You start to get like a staticky, garbled transmission. Black Stars, this is Bitter reporting in. We've spoofed our transponder and landed up as a news copter in one of the buildings here near the URZ. We've got eyes on the stage. Amira has not taken to it yet. There's still crowds gathering. They're giving out free food. There's music here. It's a real party. Having trouble. We're having some trouble, but we'll keep an eye out. Keep you updated.
Wait, what kind of trouble are they in?
I think they're just having trouble transmitting.
Oh, okay.
You're rather deep
Deep
underground, and I think you're getting interference because of it. But they are your eyes in the sky, watching what's happening above ground, so you kind of have a way to check in to see how things are progressing with the grand Grenfield announcement up on the surface of the urban renewal zone.
Wait, I can't hear you. Are we talking entrees, small bites, past plate? Be specific. Okay, anyway, yeah. So I don't think these tunnels are as abandoned as we thought. I don't know. What do you think? Have any of you been down here before?
I definitely have.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. I grew up in these tunnels.
So I guess, Des, what do you think? What's a safe route?
Well, I've never been in this part, I think, especially since it's been cleaned up. And even if I had, it's been a real long time. I don't know. Let's just keep going forward.
All right. Is there calling over Jasper, with what we have here, is there any way we can even pencil in where these new tunnels would go, where they're boring into? I know that we can't tell exactly where they go, if they go straight or if they turn, but is there some way we can...
Is there any way we can send out
I could set out my drone, actually.
Yeah, send out a drone with like maybe some sonar?
Yeah, I could. Actually, that's... How many tunnels are we looking at? Are there...
They branch out. There's multiple. There's like, from where your position goes forward, it branches off in like 4 different directions.
Okay.
There's one that keeps going straight ahead. There are 2 of these newly bored offshoots, and then there's another third, like, natural junction.
Okay.
I'm going to say this right now for the listeners at home and also for my beautiful players here on the screen in front of me. I didn't make a map of this.
No, okay.
I felt too lazy to draw out a complicated tunnel system. We're playing by...
Theater of the mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we're talking, you said about 4?
Mm-hmm.
And there's 7 of us, right?
Yeah.
If we wanted to, we could send the drone down the way that the drone just came out of. That might be coming from a direction where they're sending, it could be sent from directly from a camp. It might be able to blend in, look like another one of the drones they're sending out. If we split up and we give ourselves, I don't know if it's a time period. I don't know if it's a distance. Everyone does 100 meters in, come back to center, see what we report, see if there's any sounds, then we can get a better idea of what we're looking at? Or is it going to be too much to separate, not knowing what we're going to see at the end of these tunnels, boys?
I mean, if you roll bad and you're separated, I'll make something bad happen, but you guys won't be
Sure,
next to each other.
for sure.
Yeah. So to say...
No, that's what I mean, but like, that's what I'm saying. As a group, this is talking we're treading uncertain territory. Everyone knows this. That's what we're good at, right?
Of course, this is the GM's favorite thing, splitting up.
What I'm going to do is, in this instance, I think I'm going to make a clock. I think that might be a better way to handle some of this. I'm going to make a 6-segment clock that is going to be called Finding the Cradle. And as you kind of make rolls to explore this tunnel system, to map it out, to otherwise like venture forwards, I will progress this clock. And once you have filled all 6 segments of it, you will have located where the cradle and kind of like presumably the center of installation Violet is. And so that is like mechanically how we are going to handle kind of like finding our way there.
Okay.
Since we're not doing like a point, like a room by room kind of dungeon crawl type thing. And so we can be a little loosey goosey, in terms of like which tunnel, who goes down what, until like we get to like a point where it really matters. But so with that in mind, yes, what are we thinking? Like, how do we want to first approach starting to find our way? It sounds like maybe we're using Carta's drone in some fashion.
Yeah. I mean, is there one that we feel visually or sonically? Do we feel a breeze coming from one that like gives us any sense whatsoever that is like, this feels like there's more activity at the end of it?
I mean, I think you kind of know that you need to work in from where you're at. So, you do have like a rough geographical heading, right? Like, which says,
right.
Like right now you are west of the urban renewal zone. You need to make your way eastward, right? You can kind of pinpoint the core of the thing you're headed towards. It's about finding your way through the tunnels to that point. Rhodes was able to use the fundamental sensors of the redshift to get like kind of a rough idea of where the cradle machine apparatus is. Rhodes just wasn't able to like, get like a detailed schematic of the place. And so you do have this, I think like on your like, like the little mini maps on your Palm devices, you do have probably like a kind of like blinking beacon that was like where the redshift was able to mark out like there's a big fundamental machine here. It's just that you can't just draw a straight line there, right? These tunnels curve, they shift. None of them is leading directly in that direction.
I don't love a confined space. Well, let's start with Carta's drone.
I imagine you like maybe sending the drone out and the drone is like pinging and it's sort of like making a 3D spatially map
that's cool.
as it goes along. I feel like that's from a movie, but
Yeah, if we can do that.
Yeah. I'm thinking we're talking about Prometheus.
yeah, Prometheus. That's it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, haven't seen it.
It's good. Don't let the haters tell you it's not good. Prometheus is actually pretty fun.
Oh, I'm putting that on Letterboxd right now.
I'm thinking perfect.
We are David enjoyers. Yeah.
If you want to hear what Malcolm has to say about Prometheus, check out his Letterboxd, horrid_scrum.
Also go to Low Tone Metal Detecting on YouTube.
Also do that. Okay, so you're going to send out the drone, Carta, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's sending out pinging, I don't know how strong these pings could be, but send it kind of just down the middle one and see what we can get from whatever would spread out on either side of it. I guess the only other thing is, as non-drones and as the players, do we think that they have bored these tunnels for individuals or they are passageways for more vehicles?
The tunnels are large enough to accommodate multiple people walking through them, and I think they don't have rails running through them. The rails only still run on the old rail line. They are wide enough to accompany, let's say like 3 people walking shoulder to shoulder.
Okay.
So they could accompany like a small vehicle, but not like a large.
Well, let's send the drone out and see what we can get from there. You know, maybe touch our toes into some of the entrances of these others, see if there's anything we hear, and wait for that drone to give us any information if it does.
Yes, this is a controlled position. You gotta mark that drone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there's any particular equipment that you want to like equip it with yet, or if you want to wait and see what it needs to have on it. I think it like just by itself, it probably has like the scanning functions without needing like a specialized piece of equipment.
Yeah, carry 2 load of general pilot gear. Yeah, let's send it out and see what it needs. Two blades.
Yeah, you could put just knives on it, which is terrifying. Throwing knives is also a funny one to have on there.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. So what is this?
Also
like,
a bribe.
So is this like the crew kind of like just shooting money out as it flies down is very funny actually.
This money machine
With the money gun.
We get distracted trying to grab it from the air. Yeah.
You know how these Preparatarians are.
Okay, so is this like the crew's hunkering down kind of while Carta hops on like the hand computer to like navigate and like kind of send this thing out?
Yeah, I think so. I want Jasper there specifically helping me look at it. Just maybe Jasper and Des, just because you guys are my tunnel boys.
Sounds good.
You know, if there's anything that you know from your time down here, childhood, from your experience just living down here, if there's anything that this picks up that I'm not, let me know. Your expertise is going to serve me more sometimes than maybe this drone might. So
what action do you think you're using here?
I think it's going to be probably just, I mean, it could be a survey. Just like we are sending it out to survey the land, see what it picks up. I mean, I think that makes the most amount of sense to me.
Yes, survey. I think this is a controlled position, probably standard effect.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do believe you have a new move that might apply here.
Yeah, I just picked up the Ranger. When you gather information to locate a target, you get +1 effect. When you hide in a prepared position to use camouflage, you get +1d to rolls to avoid detection. So +1 effect and +1 to rolls.
So I don't think you're going to get a +1 to the roll here because you're not hiding in a prepared position or using camouflage, but you will get the extra effect. So this will be controlled great effect to start.
Okay.
And that's a survey that is 2d6. Do you want to push yourself? Do you want does anybody want to assist? That kind of thing. Sounds like you maybe were setting up Desmond to assist if Des wants to.
Yeah, if you want to help, I mean, you take some stress from that, right?
You take 3 stress.
3
That's
stress. That's a lot of stress. Can't help you. Can't help you, bud.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of stress to take before we even
already got 3 too. So
yeah.
Can Jasper do anything, or just he can't add?
No, that's just like kind of in the fiction. You've got his assistance, but
Right.
I think you're already at great effect control position. You can't get really better from
better
there.
than that.
Yeah.
True. I'm just gonna roll 2d6 and go from there.
All right, rock and roll.
nice.
6 and a 5 is what I think it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
It is a 6 and a 5. Great. So that is going to right out of the gate mark off 3 segments of the finding the cradle clock here. So yeah, that clock is already now out of 3 out of 6 segments. And so you said you were going to send this down the tunnel that the like survey drone had just come out of, right?
Yeah.
I think Karda Heshketh is the son of 2 professional surveyors. You know, he has grown up using survey equipment, has like taken it apart, repurposed it, learned how to use it in different ways. You are perfectly suited to do this. And you are like correctly equipped to do this as well. And so on a 6, right, this is like a total success. This thing, starts going down these tunnels, sending out this like, sonar, like pulse, right, that is on all of your like Palm computers, right? You're getting like a real-time 3D map that updates with each like passing sonar ping of this thing. And I think Karda, you're also getting probably like a video feed of what it's seeing directly. And, I think it goes a good distance sending out these pings, and you start to get a shape of the structure. There are these kind of zigzagging tunnels, some of which are changing elevations. There are at least 3 levels to this kind of like tunnel complex. There are levels below you that it is able to pick up with its pings.
Mm-hmm.
As it goes further, it also starts to pick up. There are along the way chambers. Some of these I think have the look of kind of like natural caverns. They're kind of rough, kind of like a cave system that they've connected they're tunneling into. Others have the kind of 3D signature. They look like train stations, right? Like underground stations, like the would have been the old stops. But I think, you also are able to pick up as this thing is pinging them and like, sending back this 3D map. Each of these chambers that it's passing has been filled with, it is like crates, it is equipment, right? I think you get this like really rough 3D outline of what looks like a, and then maybe the camera like this is as it passes one of these chambers, right? The drone camera turns.
Mm-hmm.
You can see resting maybe like a cloth sheet kind of half draped over it, a giant drill at the front, right? It's a boring machine. It's what they've been using to create these new tunnels through this area.
It sounds pretty exciting to me.
And so there are these like series of chambers all along the way in these different directions on multiple platforms. I think the frequency of the chambers starts to increase the further east the drone travels. And I think it stops for 2 reasons. One, I think your connection starts to get a little fuzzy after it's gone a certain distance.
Okay.
In the same way that you're having trouble hearing Zed and Bitter, I think down here, there's a lot of interference. And some of that is because you're in these like dense tunnels probably. But I think also...
Or a Calcum.
Or a Calcum, baby. Right? There's that kind of tinny feeling in your teeth. And, I didn't even think about it before this, but it's probably worth mentioning. Rhodes, you've got this shoulder full of dust moss, right?
Yeah.
In the same way, so Rhodes is a synthetic being who does not have skin, right? Rhodes, I think, is feeling the closest he's ever felt to having goosebumps.
Okay. Yeah, I wondered if it was like, if that was enough to kind of like track a direction in here, but I was kind of waiting.
I don't know if it's enough to track a direction yet, but I think you can almost feel like the fruticose extensions of the lichen do stand up a little bit, right? There's this little ruffle of movement along your arm and shoulder. You can feel you're closer to orichalcum, than you were even before you were on the other side of this thing, right? Or you're more directly exposed to its presence.
Fruticose, that's a good word.
Yeah, and so the interference, right, is one reason that this drone stops. But the other thing is that it sends out another one of these pings, and it picks up something moving. It picks up life forms, right? It picks up, in one of these chambers, there are people moving around. And I think once it detects life, right? There's an alarm protocol, right? Or something on this hunting drone that says it's not going to just float out in front of these people and then give away your position.
Right.
And so I think, it's kind of reaching the range of where it's at already, but it is, kind of stopping, near this, I think larger chamber where it's noticing there are people moving around inside as well. And so I think, on a 6, I'm also happy to answer some questions from that information, because that's a great roll, great effect. If there's specific things you want to know that it might have been able to detect, I can answer those here too.
Yes, I 2 at least that come to mind first, unless when I show it to the rest of the team and with Dez and Jasper kind of looking at my shoulder too. First, these stations that are cut out that aren't chambers.
Mm-hmm.
we didn't see any people in those immediately.
No, but I think in the same way that you notice like these like carved or these cave chambers have like stuff in them, I think these stations also have like, I say stuff, right? Like shipping containers, cargo, there's material in them.
So it doesn't mean that they aren't but we just not seeing anything specific. Okay, second, is it picking up any voices from the people that it saw, or are they too far out because once they saw it, it kind of takes the sign to maybe turn around?
I think I don't think it's probably picking up voice yet from yet. I think especially with like the fuzzy connection, you hear voices. I don't think you get words, but you get like the kind of distant sound of conversational chatter.
Okay.
Kind of like chatter that people have when they're just like working and shooting the shit, right?
Yeah.
So they're not alarmed voices. They are just like conversational voices with like a little bit of an echo to them because they are resounding in these chambers. And I think, like on a 6-year, I'll also give you're on like the highest level, I think, right? And I think that you can like kind of like from the pings that you're getting, I think you can sense that is the level that is there's more activity than on the lower ones. It picks up more of these like heat signatures of people moving around, right? It picks up more sound of voices. There's a greater concentration of chambers closer to the surface.
Okay. And
I think, if there are other questions here, I think there's that. But I think otherwise, I think that is kind of like what you're able to get on this first. You've mapped out the way in the direction of the cradle. You've mapped out some of the obstacles, some of like the things to investigate along the way. I think, maybe like again, just like rolling off of a 6, like giving you more stuff here. I think the pings that it does manage to pick up from the lower levels, you're getting these chamber entrances again. But I think you can tell there are bulkheads or doors blocking off some of them in a way that they're open air on this higher level. There are sealed chambers on the level below you.
All right.
We need to go deeper.
Yeah, like Rhodes is like maybe getting impatient and will be like, what are we waiting for? Like, let's go.
Do we want to go down and come up underneath? Do we want to go take that fucking borer and just fucking
the bore
our own tunnel through? Make the fucking Quint Selector Memorial Tunnel?
That's very funny and a great idea.
That would be really funny to bust through the wall with a boring machine. Oh man, I feel like we have to do that.
I mean, it's definitely going to make our presence known for sure.
Yeah. In terms of subtlety, pretty low on the list, but in terms of fun, that's pretty high.
What do you think, Pete?
If we use the boring machine, we're going to invite everybody in these tunnels to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is one way to go about it. But I sort of think that we should push forward, basically like we can go in guns drawn, kind of following where this drone has at least gone to. I feel like if we can find where there's like some sort of waypoint down here where there's like wherever these voices are coming from, or if there's like an installation here, if we can like neutralize them, I'd feel a lot better about going guns blazing.
Yeah, I think I am with Rhodes on this, that if we can continue down this, take note of whatever is here, grab if there's anything we want to take with us, take stock of what they have here, what they're working with maybe further down these tunnels. Maybe we can run into someone unfortunate enough to meet us here in one of these tunnels, make them give us the information we need, take it from them, leave them behind, and hopefully get further down in these tunnels.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I need to play to our strengths right now.
Yeah, I don't think boring the tunnel yet. We can come back and we'll do it for Quint later, but...
I mean, we know where it's parked.
Yeah.
Right.
If you need to make a quick escape, maybe that's the... I don't know actually how fast a tunnel boring machine moves.
Everyone to the boring machine. So we'd look behind us and they're just standing there.
There's probably like an engineer role to hyper accelerate that thing though, right? So what does this look like? Is this like give me what you're going here for? Is this the squad of 7 moving out?
Oh, I think like Rhodes is kind of tired of waiting and is like, Bitter just told us the party is happening like now. So they're like crowds are gathering. So I think, Rhodes probably like draw kind of like pistol and flashlight here and is kind of just going to push ahead sneak mode, kind of just like room clearing, I guess, as we're moving through this. Yeah,
I think that's our best move, having eyes on the back of us, eyes going forward, as people take the point. If you want it, it can be me and Rhodes taking the point, kind of clearing, and then anyone else in the party, maybe 2 in the back. That leaves 3, whoever in the middle, to kind of look into whatever rooms we're passing. And
I just want Jasper out of in the back. We've lost a bunch of people lately.
Yeah, so
Rose's I'm gonna go. So don't get any ideas, Mitchell. But I'm gonna push ahead and
Right, Jasper. If anything goes wrong, you know how to get out of here.
Stay behind us while we walk through these dark tunnels.
Yeah,
definitely the guy.
Nothing bad will come from behind.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, since you've mapped out this part of the tunnel, I feel like there's not necessarily a role to get to where you've already mapped out. We get the image here of the Black Star Constellation and the cog unit, moving in synchronization, right? Flashlights and weapons out. Like I said, there is this low lighting, but it is not like a super well lit pathway. I think as you steadily move through, probably there's another one of these moments, right, of pause, survey drone sweeps through some of these newly bored tunnels ahead and then continues on. And I think you come into the first of one of these old stations, right, that your drone was able to detect had material in it. And it is material, right? It's building material. You come in, you see it is, right, stacks of sheet metal. It is girders. It is, big shipping crates full of other building supplies, right? There are construction machines in here. It is clear that this is a place under active expansion and construction. That is what you find there.
Yeah. So maybe it's kind of dash in there we're doing a breach. But I think just taking a sweep around the room, it's God, how many people do they have? Are people living down here?
Yeah.
Well, not in the room that you're in right now, for sure. No.
Yeah. Does it look like obviously they're building something, but
right. Remembering the last installation, they had at least 3 dorms there.
Soldiers, armaments.
All right.
The first thing that I think I would strike you in seeing this, right? You can already tell the scale here is much larger than Indigo was.
Perfect.
Oh shit!
If Indigo was a fairly small installation, right? It was 3 chambers stacked on top of each other, and then this cradle chamber. There's already enough construction material here to build most of what you saw in Indigo. Violet is a larger project.
But this time we got 4 more people with us than we did last time.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a storage room essentially, but is there a fire safety map or a
ooh, nice.
One of those kind of things where it's evacuation routes or a terminal or anything like that in here?
Ooh, I don't think there's a map, right? That's probably, I think your secret base is allowed to skip building codes and doesn't need to have a fire exit map. But there is definitely installed into the wall, right? A cable running up from it and extending down the tunnel. There is a very simple communications terminal, right?
Okay.
With just a dusty screen, a simplified keyboard, and then a microphone call apparatus there.
Can I hop on that quick? I want to see if I can at least pull any login. When was the most recent login of anything, or if there's anything here that looks like there's a password or I don't know, anything like that.
I think that's probably a gather info role. I think that's probably, it sounds like interface to me.
Okay, I got a cool 0 in that, so let me.
But I think this is genuine. Is gathering info. I don't think it's going to cost you. There's not really a risk for failure.
Okay, all right. I'm going to roll for this.
Now, if you're rolling 0, that is 2d6. Take the lowest result.
It's a 2.
Yep.
It's about what I expected.
So limited information. What you were able to pull from this, it's such a simple machine. It really, I think, just connects you. It really is to make an emergency call to somewhere else in the facility. It's not even storing the data of how many times it's been used recently, but there is hanging under it, I think, covered in a layer of construction dust. There is we have to do this at my job for fire extinguishers. There's a little check sheet for hey, when was the last time someone checked all the connections on this and make sure that it's working still?
Right.
And they've been doing checks on it monthly for the last at least 6 months on this sheet. And there was one done a few days ago.
Okay, so people have been down here.
People have been down here. There is active work happening here.
I mean, Stars, I don't know how you feel about this, but I could make this emergency call.
Draw them away, and then we'll sneak out.
Exactly. We could even place an explosive on the terminal.
Oh, yeah.
Now, maybe a cave-in. We're really, really trying to make this as loud as possible, which is
Right.
what we're good at here.
I mean, you do want to draw Wager Felbar at some point, presumably, and that will require... He needs to know something bad's happening to know that he needs to come down here, right? That's like a...
That's true.
And we'll slap a proximity mine on there.
Yeah. Proximity mine that just goes off when someone comes near, I guess. We
Mhm.
can do that.
Mhm.
Also, do we want to save that kind of explosion, a remote mine even, where we are further in to where we get eyes upon the cradle, set it off so that people have to go past us in a rush to check it out? I mean, these are ideas. We could just talk about it, but
Cut them off.
That's my thinking.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, that means we need to move pretty quickly from here. So from this room, there's like one other exit going the other direction.
So I think, there's this kind of chamber station that you're in, and then the tunnel goes back behind you, and then I think there are splits behind you that you have passed already. And then it continues on ahead of you, and there are other branches ahead of you. So you are like on a path, presumably towards the cradle, but there are branches that go out kind of behind and in front of you. You are not kind of like you're not in a chute, you know what I mean?
And we did not pick up that security drone when Tim's hunter like robot scanned, right? Like we don't know where it went.
You can tell that they're like traveling through these tunnels, but it was able to avoid getting detected by them. You saw one pass ahead of you again and then continue on like perpendicular to your path at one point. So you know that there are others that might come down this way at some point. You have
Okay.
not seen one recently.
Okay. Are we ready to do this? You guys ready to move quickly from here?
Yep.
yeah, I guess.
And I think, shooting a glance to Jasper, like, we do this all the time. It's no big deal.
Okay, so just so I know, you're setting a bomb off on this terminal so that they come and check it out?
No, we're making an emergency call from this terminal. Like this is
that makes more sense. I thought you were blowing it up, and I was a little bit nervous about that. And I was like, maybe don't blow something up yet. But yes, an emergency call being like, something's going on out here, check it, ditch. Hopefully they come. Gotcha.
by the time they get there, the timed explosive goes off. We'll be well on our way, presumably. But that also means, Stars, one way out. Okay? This cuts off our escape route, as long as we're all comfortable with that.
It's one escape route.
True, there are tons of tunnels down here. I guess we can always live underground if all else fails.
I mean, you know that there is an elevator that leads up to the construction site in the urban renewal zone. You were able to spot that in your previous recon. So somewhere in here there's an elevator that goes up. You're not at it right now, but it's somewhere.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna punch in the 911 code or whatever that is here. Pick up the red phone.
I think that this is a roll here.
Okay.
Let's roll it back just 1 second.
Yep.
Just so I can think about what we're doing mechanically. Can I hear the pitch from beginning to where this goes?
Okay. So as we're kind of setting up on here on this computer, it's there's not a lot of interface, but you can call this, basically an emergency line.
Yeah.
On this terminal, I guess towards the back or something, I've got placed explosives. We also just kind of upped the supply quality.
Yeah.
The placed explosives do stay, it's a moldable explosive putty with a timer or remote detonator. It's never quiet. So the plan is I'm going to stick this placed explosive on the back of the terminal. And, I guess depending on how the roll goes, whatever the emergency is here, it's someone needs to come down here. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to get connected, but I'm going to be we need a hand down here. There's a fire, or some of the equipment is malfunctioning. And the plan is we're going to try and get the security detail to kind of converge on this room. And by the time they're here, the explosives go off and we are 3 tunnels away.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe this
is basic minor safety stuff. You always want to do that when you're in a tunnel. Just make the explosive go off.
So is this call is I could see this being a setup action maybe for the a group action to move through the tunnels swiftly and undetected.
My feeling is that when this call is placed and the explosives are set, we have 5 minutes to move really fast. And any obstacles in our path there, we're gonna have to deal with. But
yeah, and this was the furthest the drone map took us.
The drone map went a little further. You saw rooms ahead.
Okay, cool. So we at least there might still be chambers to duck into.
Yeah. So I think let's do this as a setup action to increase either the effect or the position of what sounds like it'll probably be a group action of like moving swiftly through these tunnels safely and undetected. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Okay.
I guess the question for me is the setup action the explosive or is it the call?
Call, right?
Yeah, because if we fuck up the call, they're like, "What? There's just intruders." The setup is like probably the call, and the part that buys us time is convincing them to go to that room, this way station or whatever.
In that case, I think this sounds like. Well, who's making the call? Is this you, Rhodes?
Yeah.
It sounds like you had the idea. It sounds like probably a sway to me. You're like right. You're
Okay. Yeah, sway. That makes sense. That works for me. I was worried you were going to say something
examples
else.
is you might convince a guard that you do in fact belong in the restricted area. I feel like that's kind of like a similar thing
Sure.
that you're doing. So this is a setup action. I think it's controlled standard effect. You're still controlled position at this point.
Okay.
You can always push yourself. You could. I don't know how anyone could really assist you on this.
Oh, I know how. I have an idea. But if it's a group action, we all have to roll anyway, right?
I think the group action is going to be after this. It's going to be
Okay.
hustling through the tunnels.
Because I don't know if there's like foil or any junk around this room. I was like,
Do some Foley
We
work.
got like
Yeah.
building materials shaking some like
I said sheet metal already. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm going to roll for sway. I'm not going to push myself. 2d6. And I think, like, essentially, like, coming on the line, I guess we can play it. Should I play it out before we roll or roll?
Let's roll and then let's play it out. Because I think the conversation looks very different really quickly depending on what this roll is.
yeah.
Ooh, that's a 6, baby.
Hell yeah.
We're smoking these rolls mostly.
So I think you pick up the line, and before you can say anything, right? It's like, security. This is Silas. What is it?
Silas, this is way station. We got a problem down here. There's something's happening with the installation. The orichalcum's reacting. I think is audibly cutting out. We got one man hurt already. We need a detail down here ASAP.
And right, it's like slightly like more panicked intonation in the voice. Like, all right, hold on. I've wait.
There's something else down here.
All right, I've got your signal. Response team is on the way. Hold position.
I don't know how long. Send a bunch of guys.
Better make it all of them just to be sure.
All right. I got you 2 units on the way now. Hold position. And
Order
the
up.
line goes dead.
Well, I got a position for you to hold. Sorry.
What?
What was that? What was that, bud? What was that?
Yeah, Carta is in an evocative pose.
I'm mooning them, dude.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Oh,
It's just a call. You can pull them up. Thank you, though.
And so then you're putting explosives on this.
Yeah, I think it's like as click on the phone, slap, like setting the timer for it. In my head, it's like an egg timer where it's like cranking the thing.
Sure, dude. Yeah, I like that.
And yeah, for all this kind of like high tech, it's still pretty low tech. Like this is just a placed explosive, and it's like, okay, we need to move now.
And so yeah, that was a total success. I think the way that you know is a success, right, is suddenly, right, there's like a flashing red light in the room you're in, right, and in the surrounding tunnels.
Yeah, there's like emergency lighting.
Yeah.
I also, I guess I should state, like, as far as placed explosives go, this is not like, a huge detonation. It's probably enough to like clear a room, maybe cause a cave in, but this isn't intended to be like, our whole payload or anything.
So that they're coming and they know where you're at. They're going to move quick. I think you've got to move quickly to like start cutting your way in, right?
Yeah.
Like to like start making your way down the tunnels to avoid them and get deeper towards the cradle itself. I said it before, I think this is probably a group action, right? Because this is like everyone hustling.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's probably, although I'm open to arguments for a different maneuver, prowl feels like the most appropriate.
Yeah.
Finesse was the only other one that jumped at me. Was like, but yeah, grace and precision. Yeah, that sounds like prowl. Yeah.
Yeah, you might climb a mech in the middle of battle. You might sneak past a security camera. I think those those sound like prowl to me. So the question is, this is a group action, which means everyone gets to roll prowl, and if one person succeeds, the whole group succeeds. The question mark here is who is leading, and whoever is leading is going to take a point of stress for every failure that happens in the total roll.
Well, I guess I have the highest prowl, so... Oh, wait.
Yeah, I only have one.
Yeah, I mean, Desmond's kind of a tunnel rat already. That makes sense to
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
Tunnel bat, rather.
Yeah, that's fine. Des, I guess, would probably be like, follow me, right? Like pushing forward here. I'm cool with that.
So I think this is... I think... Is this still controlled, or is this risky now? You did the setup action. I think it's not making your position safer, but I think it's going to give you increased effect. I think this is going to be great effect for sure. I do kind of feel like sprinting through the tunnels, like in a mad dash to kind of like run around the incoming enemy squad you just called might be risky.
So risky, great.
I think this is risky great.
Okay.
So everyone's going to roll prowl. If anyone wants to push themselves before they do that, now is the time to choose to do so. Obviously, you can't assist each other because you're all doing the thing together. But this is also going to be working on, I think, the clock, finding the cradle clock, right? You're going to be delving deeper into the facility and getting closer to the cradle.
What would be the stress taking for a group action then?
Since Desmond is leading, Desmond's going to take 1 stress for each person who fails this roll.
But if we had to push ourselves.
Oh, then you pay your own stress to give yourself the extra dice. Since we're all rolling prowl individually.
Okay. I only have 1, so I'm rolling.
Anybody else pushing?
I'm already rocking with 2, so I'm just going to roll 2.
I think I'm just going to roll 1.
Oh, these quarters are weighing me down.
I succeeded.
Yep.
Ooh, failed that bad boy.
So that was a 3 from Rhodes, a 2 from Carta, but a great 4 and a 6 from Desmond, who, in my interpretation of this, you've got to be like grabbing people by the collar to pull them like away from like the tunnel they're trying to go down, right? Like,
Yeah. No, you fucking morons. It's down this way. Follow me. I know I'm hard to see.
Carter's pants are still down.
Yeah.
But it is a stumbling, chaotic dash into the tunnels, right? And I think, you do start having to like cut down alternate routes that you weren't originally planning on taking, right? Because you start to see those survey drones are like hurtling through the air, like the red light, like, like just like a curtain sweeping across the ground as they move. And so Dez is pulling you into alcoves, right? You're shimmying around.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think Dez, maybe this is like why you succeed and the other two fail, is I think you got big ears, dog. You're a bat guy. You hear this machine before any of them can see it, and you're able to pull everyone into one of these like newly bored tunnels. One that's descending, I think, actually. You're going down a level. And as you're starting to go into this tunnel going down, right? Behind you, you only get to see it for a fleeting moment, but there is a large kind of like armored platform, right? With, I think like a mounted gun turret on the front, like a swivel turret, like a machine gun mounted on the front, like 6 armored like soldiers with like the Grenfield symbol on their chest plates, right? We're in this kind of like mine car that's on the rails, right? That is like hurtling down the path towards where you guys just were. And so the reason they've replaced these rails is that they have like carts that are moving around, most of which are probably just transporting things, but some of which are like big armored vehicles. But you, on this 6, right, you get everyone down. And you're able to get down to the second level and keep working your way forward. It's actually, I think, a little quieter down on this level.
Is that a bad thing or good thing? Are we off track?
No, it's quieter because as you come down, you come up to the first of, you're reaching the kind of the known edge of what you've been able to survey. And there is like another like carved, what would be like a tunnel entrance, but it's set in with a bulkhead. And you can see there's a chamber behind it. And it has like, I think, it's like a big glass, like porthole, like a window to see into that chamber. And whereas the other chambers that you passed so far were like, as we said, just like cargo storage, you can see that this one has been outfitted with big tables, and there are machines in there. It's like a manufacturing area, right? Like there's like a big kind of like welding machine like poised over like a half finished piece of like complicated machinery, right? There's an assembly lab here, and it appears that like right now they're not working on that, right? It's quieter on this level. Maybe the people who would normally be in there are up on the surface right now to watch Meyer's speech. but for whatever reason, it's not as populated as it seemed up on the layer above you. And as you continue forward, I think you kind of pass a few more of these. You are in kind of like what quickly becomes like clear, like a manufacturing wing of this facility, right? There are more of these tunnels that split off to more chambers, and I think you pass more of these, like, sealed doors, right? These chambers have finished interiors, right? They're trying to prevent cave dust from getting over sensitive machinery. That's also why they have like their sealed doors, whereas like it didn't matter upstairs.
They come to Ember and they're afraid of dust.
But you are, making your way along this level, right? And you're kind of mapping out, this new area of the facility you hadn't seen yet. And Rhodes, the dust moss on your shoulder is now almost painful. It's just like sensation, right? It's like it's the feeling of, when you have been like sitting down for too long and like your leg has fallen asleep. That's what it feels like across your shoulder and arm, right? Like a limb is waking up. And again, for a person who is not like biological at all, we know Rhodes has some sense of like, physical touch. But I do think that this is like probably still...
It's weird. It's like a sixth sense.
Yeah, an alien sensory feeling for you.
And I think he's like, you probably see him like, I don't know, I think hand out front, like flexing his wrist and fingers, like it's making sure it's still there. Can you see the veins of orichalcum like in the walls? I guess I'm trying to figure out like how close we are to it. Okay.
I would say one thing that you can kind of feel, right? And maybe this is like, just to give this to everyone else, right? I think maybe this is like enough to stop you in your tracks for a moment. It's not all around you. It is very clearly like directional. It's ahead of you. You're heading towards. The feeling's getting stronger with every step that you're taking now in this direction. And it's maybe in this moment where like Rhodes has to pause, as you're beset by this kind of intensity of feeling that the orichalcum is arousing, that we hear the boom.
Nice.
The explosion goes off, a level above you, but even that far away, it's a roar that echoes and rips, and, dust shakes from the ceiling around you as, like you said, it wasn't a massive explosion, but I think any explosion in this kind of enclosed space is going to be felt.
Yeah, I think just as he closes up to a fist or something, right? Like, I think it worked. It's like, you pause and listen for a moment longer, but it sounds like we're quiet here.
I don't think so, right? I think, I'll give you what it is, right? This is like a little bit of a complication, but not really. This was probably going to be an obstacle no matter what. I'm ticking that clock up 3 segments, finding the cradle, right? You had great effect, we said, because of your setup action. You rolled a 6 there, thanks to Desmond. You continue winding your way through these tunnels for a little bit longer in the wake of this explosion, right? It's like, like you hear it, the dust, and I think it spurs everyone back into motion, right? It's like back to that like sprint, like we've got to keep moving, put as much distance between us and the distraction that we've caused as possible. And then I think, you come around a bend in the tunnel, the tunnel widens up, right? It gets larger. It's roomier. It's been expanded, you can see. And you are staring out, maybe like 50 feet away from the end of this tunnel, because this tunnel opens up into an enormous cavern, a huge chamber, maybe like, a football field length across or more. Hard to tell because you're still looking at it from your perspective in the tunnel. And also hard to tell because kind of hanging in the center of this chamber, you're kind of looking at it. You're on the second level, we said. So you're kind of looking at it kind of from the middle of its bulk. And so you can see the chamber goes down further too, as it also goes up. But suspended, hanging there in the center of this chamber is this enormous metallic... It almost looks at first like a ship, right? Like some kind of like vehicle. It's almost, or like
it's like some sort of construct is what.
Yeah, like this construction. I think it looks almost like an enormous metallic beehive, honestly, like suspended by struts and supports, hanging in the center of this chamber. And as you kind of round that corner and you're like looking at the open entrance of this chamber, right? That feeling waves over you, and all of you can feel like fundamental energy, right? It's like your back teeth itch, right? You have goosebumps. There is like a a ringing in all of your ears. You are close to like a very powerful raw vein of orichalcum. This enormous metallic machine or construct kind of suspended in the center of this chamber. And you all lay eyes on it, and there's not a sign on the side or anything, but I think it's pretty clear to each and every one of you that you have reached the entrance to the cradle chamber where this thing is. And it is, as you kind of catch sight of it, like I said, like 50, 60 feet from like the end of this tunnel and the start of that chamber, the lights in the entire tunnel go a real flashing red now, right? And a klaxon alarm starts to sound. The vision of the cradle hanging in the chamber ahead of you disappears as two heavy bulkhead doors slide over that chamber entrance to close it off.
Oh, fuck.
Back.
And you hear like, and I think you can kind of hear it echoing throughout like the network, like as like chamber entrances all over around this kind of big circular chamber start shutting down.
Wait a minute. What? Can we slice it, or is there a panel here? We're so close. We can't stop now.
I mean, yeah, right. That's
What's around us? Are we seeing panels? I mean, it's flashing red. Are there?
So yeah, probably there is, right? Yeah, there is like some kind of like console, like mounted in the wall near that door. And I think it is like there's no windows or anything on that door. It is like a bulkhead, right? It is meant to be like a protective. You can tell. I think it's thick. This is definitely like a heavy door. Like I said, bulkhead, right? Like it is like meant to seal this chamber off completely. And so yeah, these alarms start going off, and I think you start to hear echoing through the tunnels, the shouts, right? The entire compound, the entire installation Violet is like kind of waking up in response to this alarm. You can hear, not where you're at yet, but there are people moving around, right? Yelling. I think you hear off in the distance the sound of bulkheads sliding open. Maybe people who were in some of these like manufacturing areas that were still operating, like trying to do whatever they're supposed to do, evacuate maybe. But so, I think there is an element here of you're not sure how much time you have before someone might come around this way.
Are there other doors besides the one in front of us, like to the left or right? Like,
I think your tunnel ends right here. But I think, with the brief glimpse that you saw, right, into that chamber, you could see that there was like kind of like three-tiered kind of like levels to this thing, right? These kind of three rings. Mm-hmm. And so you could backtrack into the tunnels and come around from a different angle to try and find a different bulkhead door. But I think that kind of echoing, right, was the sound. That chamber has sealed off. Right, that is probably the first thing that happens when an alarm goes off in this place is that the most important thing, access is denied to it, unless you have a way to get through.
I don't know if my fine security cracker is beefy enough for this. You could try.
You could certainly try, yeah, absolutely. I think that, right, like this is, I think the cogs kind of like take up the rear. They're facing the tunnel you came from. I think, like shoulders against walls, two in the front crouching down. I imagine they all have like probably like submachine guns, like or two of them with submachine guns, two of them with like long rifles, right? They're kind of watching the rear as they look to you three for guidance. And I think, Jasper is probably the one who looks to the rest of the cogs and is like, it's all right. Hold position. We're with the Black Star Constellation. They do things like this all the time.
Yeah.
And then he looks to you three.
That's right, Jasper.
Big gulp.
Okay, so I we got to get out of here. We're looking. This is, I imagine, like in like in Phantom Menace or something, where like those like laser doors are closing. We have like maybe 8 feet to maneuver in here. We're essentially sitting ducks. We need to get out of here. So I don't know if there's like obviously some sort of access panel for this door control, but
there is a console. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Oh, I don't know. Does anybody have like a hacking program?
Malcolm's got the fine hacking tool.
Yeah, the fine security cracker.
That might be good here.
And I need to roll interface to use that.
So that's a great question here, right?
So none of us are exactly computer guys, but technically I am a computer guy.
I have one in engineer.
Or it's you have one in engineer.
Yeah.
I have one in engineer too.
So what are our options, right? There's interface. When you interface, you work closely with electronic equipment, making it an extension of your body. You might hack into a technologically advanced vehicle or understand how it works. Engineer. When you engineer, you build or tinker with an object. You might fix a broken door. There's finesse. When you finesse, you handle an object with agility. I feel like this door in particular, you're going to have, I think it's limited effect if you use finesse.
Yeah.
Because this is not about like picking the lock. I think that this is about either affecting the engineering to get it to release like the pressure seals, or it's about hacking the console to make the door disregard its programming and open again, right? That said, if Desmond is the one who does this, you are not negatively affected by quality or tier when you attempt to bypass security measures. So the fact that it's like a higher tier than you won't matter.
And what is being manufactured in here? Is there anything that stands out as something that might be useful, or seems like it has any type of use that we know of, or looks like a weapon or a...
Definitely not weapons. It's like machine parts, right? I don't think it's anything that jumps out immediately as useful, but if someone had an idea for a thing they wanted to find, I'm like open to a thing that could be in there.
Yeah, did any fucking lazy employee or forgetful employee leave a key card around? Checking through desks?
I don't think that's the case here.
We could always just kind of shoot the wires. That's what they do in Star Wars.
Well, I have a 0 in engineer and interface, so whatever I do, I'm going to have to figure something out.
But if you push yourself, that obviously can get you some dice. You could get assisted by people. That'll give you more dice.
I mean, engineer, I have one in engineer. One of the
Same.
Like flavor pieces is that you might fix a broken door. I think like probably pulling out some sort of knife, we can wedge this panel open, and maybe this is like red wire, blue wire, crossing sparks, like really just trying to like invert current here so that it just does the opposite. Like I don't really care about all these other doors, especially if everybody who's potentially in some sort of security detail is like behind us. I'm guessing they kind of probably know we're here.
I mean, I imagine they didn't send all the security things there. And again, I'm saying in this room we're in, the only way out is forward or back. There's not side doors to other chambers either side of us. Like,
you could go back to get into other chambers. You could, but like right where you in the place where you're at, right? Yeah, it is like.
Well, if you guys want to start looking at the door, Carter can go at least like try to peek out around the door, see if there's anyone coming.
I mean, the only other thing I can think of here is I also have, I brought more explosives, and we have demolition tools.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
I think it's a little close quarters. Like I feel like we're probably not exactly. It's not exactly a safe move.
And we could just cave it in too, and then we just have a pile of rubble to get through instead of a big door. Yeah,
punching at it. I'm gonna at least try this.
I forgot my dog medicine, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, you've been using it on your hands. I gotta check in on that guy. If you're curious, look up the guy who puts dog medicine on his hands so he can break rocks with his fists on TikTok. We've done a lot of research on this.
Have we talked about him on the show already? I feel like we have.
Probably.
We maybe have.
Probably. We should probably get a Discord channel going of just deep research. Yeah, so I'm going to at least try this, like, pulling out like a kind of knife, wedging this panel out and trying to engineer like the door open, essentially.
Yeah, what is that like? Like, what are you...
I mean, like, I've worked on the inside of a ancient machine for enough years now where like I can probably handle basic, compressor lock. So I think it's literally like kind of like splitting wires and trying to like spark it. Like I'm hot wiring a door, basically.
So you're going to try and pop this open with engineer. Is that right?
Yeah. This is probably just like basic mechanical engineering, trying to work this.
Without like any special tools, I think that this is like risky.
Well, I have a lockpick from burglar gear. Does that count here? Like, it says both mechanical and electronic.
If you want to take the gear, yeah, that'll...
Yeah, I mean, I think part of this is like the dust moss is like going crazy. And I think Rhodes got one look at that construct and like needs to be closer to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll mark the burglar gear.
Yeah, you mark that gear, then I'll give you risky standard. Otherwise, risky limited without a like specialty piece. Thank you.
Okay. So I have one in engineer. I think I'm gonna push because like I do not want to be trapped in here.
Yeah.
So I'll push for 2d6.
Okay, so it's 2d6. Desmond or Carta could assist here if either of them has like.
I can also assist with engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so it is Carta. It'll cost you Oh, it'll cost Desmond and Carta both 2 stress to assist here.
I can't afford. You'll do it. Okay, good. I can't afford it.
Maybe this is like, your little hunter drone, like kind of holding the spanner or something. Whatever, like.
Yeah, it could also just be what I've picked up from working with Seldom Rome.
Our attendant.
Yeah. So that's going to be 2 stress from Carta. But that can give you an extra dice, and it can also give you increased effect or position.
My concern is that if this door now opens, there's going to be like long guns pointed in our face. So I would like maybe take effect. So that'd get us up to
3d6 risky great effect. Is that what we're shooting for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 3d6. We got to get the fuck out of here.
Get some guns ready at the door too if we need, I guess.
It's a 5.
5. Okay.
Good thing I took that extra dice because it's a 2 and a 3 otherwise.
Yeah, 3 would have been really gnarls.
So I think that you guys are like, fussing with this thing, right? And the klaxon alarms are blaring, and the tension is increasing, right? It shudders, and then the lock doesn't break.
Yeah, you can just hear it groaning like against itself.
Yeah. And then that last try, right? Your full effort into turning it. There's like a hiss and a pop as the seal breaks, and like haltingly, these bulkhead doors open up. They slide like groaningly apart to reveal the chamber that you were looking at from a distance before, and now you're right there, and you can see it close up. It is enormous, right? It is probably like 50 feet from top to bottom, maybe like 60 wide. This big chrome and metal, this metallic machine, like I said, vaguely beehive shaped. It has all of these support struts shooting out of it and mounted into the cavern walls of this enormous circular chamber that you're in. There are also walkways that are leading up to and past it, right? That I think you can see is like where engineers and people normally come to like work on this machine that is, I think, almost like a jellyfish, right? It has all of these cables that are hanging down from it that sink below. And at its very bottom, there is, I think, the size of like a small truck, this hewn prism whose point points directly below it, because you've got this circular chamber with these 3 kind of levels carved into its sides, but the center of the chamber, the bottom of the chamber, is a chasm. It is darkness. It is a pit so deep that you can, like, the light doesn't reach down far enough. You can't see how far down it goes, except that every so often, as you're looking down in there, the light catches in just such a way that you catch this brief iridescent glimmer of orichalcum far below. And it's like a psychic assault, Rhodes, right? As you step in,
looking over the edge.
Yeah, you're hypercharged with this fundamental energy radiating out from this chasm, right? There is far below, God knows how deep this chasm goes, there is a large open vein of orichalcum. And we know this why this is here, right? It's not just like orichalcum that's sprouted up to the surface. It is connected down to the lattice that undergirds this entire planet, that is part of whatever this planet's like purpose was. It's the closest you've ever been to like a direct connection to that lattice. And, I think all of you can see Rhodes momentarily stunned by like the force of this feeling, and you feel it too, like not in the same intensity, as you're not tied into it that way, but like it's enough to make you feel like a little bit of vertigo just seeing this cavern and then having this like strange kind of like unreality feeling wash over you. And so I imagine almost, we see the black stars swaying a little bit like they're getting their sea legs back, and then sharp, not worried, but like intent, Jasper. You hear his voice, but you get it over the throat mic too. Footsteps. We got bogeys coming from behind us.